welcome to the Courtenay Turn Podcast. My guest returning is Lynne Taylor. She is known as the Common Core Diva. And today we are going to talk about AI and beta babies, which, as I said to her, are great because we've been, kind of covering this AI topic. Not so great because this is not a great trajectory. But I think this will not be kind of like a shock to all of you watching because we've been kind of covering a lot of this technocracy stuff. So I am super excited to find she always does incredible research and such deep dives and synthesizes things beautifully. So I'm really excited to learn what she has uncovered this time. Lynne Taylor, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine, Courtney. Thank you so much. And hello to your audience. It's wonderful to be back with you. And there is a lot about this that is very, very troubling. So I'm glad that your audience is familiar enough to understand this is not necessarily a good thing for our children.
No, I was actually watching a video earlier today about like how they've been putting like infants on blockchain ledgers, like
Right.
other parts of the world. I don't think it's here in the United States quite yet, but they're doing it as a way of tokenizing the economy based on biometric data and giving you essentially like they don't call it a social credit system. It's part of like the global value system, I think is what they call it.
Right.
And they just keep renaming things. But it's literally like tied to your biometric data and social credit, essentially based on that, and a tokenized economy that they claim is going to eradicate poverty, of course. Which in reality, right. Which in reality, it looks like it's going to create a feudal system. Where, and a very controlled feudal system where if you do something they don't like, you get your tokens revoked. And if you do something that, they do like, whether it's you achieve some sort of biometric data score or you say something good and comply, so forth, so on, then, you get rewarded with these tokens on a UBI, universal basic income type of scenario. This sounds incredibly dystopian. And they're doing this with infants and they're already doing this.
Yes, absolutely. And what got my attention about all this, Courtney, was I was watching TV one night with my husband, and this ad from Prudential comes on, and it's talking about how we're going to incentivize the beta babies. And I'm thinking, now that sounds really, really loaded. So I went and I found the press conference, the press release. Sorry about that. And I'm going to read just a snippet from this particular press release for you, if my silly phone will cooperate. All right, baby steps toward retirement. Prudential gives Generation Beta a savings kickstart and launches the first of its kind study. So basically, any baby that's born between January the 1st, 2025 and December 31st, 2039 is going to be part of this study, redefining life, longevity, and retirement. Now, the incentive that they're going to give is that parents or guardians can, as soon as the baby is born, can go to Prudential and sign up and get $150 for their birth. It's going to go into a savings account. The reason they're using $150 per child is because in 2025, Prudential Insurance turns 150 years old. Now, by the time that these children reach the age of 70, whenever that's going to be, this $150 will blossom into $100,000. Oh, isn't that special? And it goes on to tell you here that 80% of prospective Generation Beta parents will agree that in an ideal world, the parents should start saving for their child's retirement from birth. In fact, the number one regret among current and prospective parents is they didn't save money for retirement. Well, this is interesting, Courtney, because I know that a lot of parents set up savings accounts for their children, but it's not necessarily for their retirement. The retirement is usually the child's responsibility once they turn of age. So this is sounding to me very micromanaging of this particular insurance company. But here's the thing. If you look at everything that insurance covers, it plays right into what you were just talking about, the biometric data and the harvesting on these children, because they're going to be studied throughout their lives.
Yeah. That is really interesting that they're couching it in retirement and that they think that
Mm-hmm.
somehow $100,000 is going to
It's
be
good.
a
Right.
sufficient retirement fund.
Exactly.
How long,
Exactly.
especially with inflation, right? And if we even still have a dollar, system.
E-
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Well, I wanted to point out a couple of things about the generational labels that we've had.
Yeah.
The greatest generation we know was from 1901 to 1927. The
Mhm.
silent generation was anyone born between 1928 and 1945. Then you have the baby boomers, 1946 to 1964, Generation X, which was 1965 to 1980. Then you have the millennials, also known as Generation Y, meaning the letter
Mhm.
Y, 1981 to 1996. Generation Z, which was also given the name iGen, that was 1997 to 2010. Generation Alpha was 2010 to 2024. And that leaves us with Generation Beta, 2025 to 2039. Now, one of the things that we need to understand is that between 97 to current date, Common Core has been the rule of the roost when it comes to education.
Mhm.
And what has been inserted into education? Artificial intelligence, algorithms that track the children to harvest biometrics and other pieces of information as well. They also use the algorithms to tweak tests to make it appear that Johnny and Susie are really, really smart when they're not really retaining anything. And if you are one who follows the national assessments on education progress, you're going to know that the scores are not reflecting that our children are learning much of anything. They're going through school without being able to read and write and do simple math, and they're graduating. But what are they graduating in? Career tech readiness, not academics.
Right. Right. And this is, yeah, as you well know, with Common Core, this is exactly what Charlotte is a beat warned
Mhm.
about back in the 80s. And
Right.
here we are, and people are still arguing with me about it today.
Absolutely. I get it, I do. But now, one of the resources that you can provide for your audience when this hits the
Yeah.
press is there is a news release that the AI driven technical medical field is going to blossom into a $13.73 billion industry. Now, that should
Wow.
scare the bejeebers out of everyone because this is going to, especially for neuromuscular treatments and cognitive and things like that, it's really, really scary. So, again, the technocrats, look at how they buddy up to Congress. Look how they have people lobbying in the healthcare industry, in the insurance industry.
For sure. So, and where can they find
Absolutely.
that?
Okay, this is the email that I sent you. This is the prnnewswire.com news release. That
Okay.
would be resource number 3. Okay.
Wow.
And then if you look at the CDC, oh my goodness. They're going to insert artificial intelligence to track how you're giving your child the vaccine. And then it goes on to tell you just how many vaccines your children will need. And the list is off the charts. They've got it available so that if you want to print off the list, you can absolutely do it. Or if you want to sit there and read it on the website, you absolutely can. It tells us they're going to start giving children the RSV antibody at birth. They're going to continue it for
And
the first 7 months of that child's life.
and what is that? And what did they
The
claim?
RSV is supposed to be the respiratory viral infection that they've now come up with a new shot for because they're saying people over, I think it is 55, they need to be able to have the RSV because, after all, respiratory disease will take you out. Well, do we have to have a vaccine for every stupid thing that hits us? No, we don't. But according to the CDC, yes, we do. And they're going to use the data to track all this. Hepatitis B, you get your first dose at birth, then you get your second dose between the first and second month, then you get your third dose anywhere between the 6 month and 18-month mark. Oh boy. Then you get the rotavirus. That happens at 2 months. The DTaP, which is the diphtheria, tetanus, and pertussis, I believe it is. You get your first dose at 2 months, your second dose at 4 months, your third dose at 6 months. Then you get your HIV shot, which I really don't even know what that is. You get your first dose at 2 months, second dose at 4 months,
2-month-old
third
needs
dose.
HIV shot. I mean, we
Yeah,
know the history of HIV, which, I won't
yeah,
go down that
abs-
path. But
right.
even if it were legitimate, a 2-year-old, 2-month-old,
A
that's
2 month
insane.
old, yeah. Okay. The pneumonia one starts at the second month of life. Polio, second month of life. COVID-19, that starts, let's see here, that starts by the time they're 8 months old.
It's insane.
Influenza, flu shot, about the same time frame. The MMR, about the same time frame. Chicken pox and hepatitis A. And they're going to add to this particular list as well. So if you haven't already looked at the vaccine schedules that the CDC is going to be pumping out, because after all, big insurance will buddy right up to that, Prudential included. And you can bookmark this particular website, cdc.gov vaccines and then schedules. All right. And of course, that means they're going to have more AI healthcare that the CDC is going to employ as well. So you need to be looking at what the Centers for Disease Control does. I would love to see that just go away, just shrivel up and blow away, but we're stuck with it. So anyway,
No wonder they're claiming that one out of every 2 children is going to be autistic in the next coming decades. I think that's being optimistic. That's the least that we see. I'm not trying to, I don't want to be
right.
inconsiderate to those who are suffering with, having been afflicted. But that's
Right.
insane to think that there
It
aren't going to be
is.
consequences of that kind of a schedule for children who are that young. The
I
MMR
know.
isn't even given that young now, and we're seeing what the implications of that are now.
Right. Well, I remember when my parents took me to get my measles, mumps, and rubella. I certainly was not a baby. I don't know how old I was, but I was certainly not a baby. And
Right.
I don't think that they would have done that to me if I were a baby. Now, being that I was school aged and among other children, yes, they thought it would be smart to go ahead and get us vaccinated. But
Right.
that's another story for
So
another
they're
time.
saying that, yeah, right. So they're saying that it's that it's AI driven. So this is part of the AI precision medicine plans.
Yeah.
Do they
Yeah, it absolutely is.
do they outline the how AI is going to be instrumental?
I don't know, not yet. Not that I have looked into Courtney. Now, it probably is already in the works, but pardon the pun, it might be in its infancy as well. I don't know. It seems to me, from what I have understood, that this stuff has been in the works for so long. It would not surprise me if they didn't have something already going.
Sure.
But I could not find that particular information.
Right.
But just look out for it. Do your own homework. Look in your state. Look at what your state is doing. Look at what the federal government is doing. Those are some action steps for you as parents or grandparents or even concerned citizens. Or you might be a guardian. So you would want to look at that as well. But I wanted folks to understand one of the reasons why this is so important is because you have the Department of Health and Human Services for their fiscal year 2025 budget, my dear. Are you ready?
Mhm.
$130.7 billion to promote the health and well-being of all Americans, and 1.7 trillion, my dear, in mandatory proposed budget authority. Well, what does that mean? Technical support for anyone who gets in the money from the Health and Human Service Department. It goes on to tell you that they want the customer, because they see you as a business product
Right.
customer, that sort of language, that you need to be well served. Well, how can we well serve you? They're going to justify this budget using information technology investments. That's what they're going to use a lot of the money for. And it absolutely just frightens me that they're going to say, okay, we're going to use this money, we're going to put it into information technology that traces and tracks you. And you're a customer? No, you're a victim.
Well, but I think they're couching it in that is that you've opted into it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well,
So,
don't be surprised if you go ahead.
oh no, you continue. I'll ask after.
I was just going to say, don't be surprised if your doctor, who you have developed such a wonderful relationship with, doesn't somehow get told, well, because you're not taking the federal funding, because you're not taking the vaccinations, because you're not doing everything that we tell you to conform and comply to, don't be surprised if they lose their license.
Right. So, how are they planning to enforce this? Is this through the like prerequisites for school or?
Well, hang on. Let me get back there
Okay.
because it
Okay.
said they were justifying it. They're going to justify it through consolidating data.
Okay.
So that means it's going to go into schools because schools do get Medicaid funding, and that's under the Department of Health and Human Services.
Right.
It's going to go through the Administration for Children and Families. It's going to go through the Administration for Community Living. Oh, everybody's, in the village wanting to raise your children. Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality. Oh, research always means data mining. Advanced Research Projects Agency for Health. Strategic Preparedness and Response. Toxic Substances and Disease Registry, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Centers for Medicaid and Medicare, Food and Drug Administration, the Indian Health Service, the National Institute for Health, and then finally the Substance Use and Mental Health Service Administration.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
these are all the ways that they're going to connect this to the school.
Right. Right. I just did a show talking about the ARPA Health and their
Mm-hmm.
AI medicine, Poseidon, and some of their other
Right.
technologies they're
Absolutely.
implementing.
Well, the Centers for Medicaid have put out a guide, and I put that in the resources for everyone as well. It's actually a book. This particular book is going to have how they're going to finance vaccines for the 21st century, especially for your children. And it means more public-private partnerships. And the reason why this is so concerning is because it's mentioning the fact that it's going to be tied to the World Health Organization. It's going to be tied to the United Nations as well. And that is really, really concerning. So, we could hear the administration saying, hey, we're cutting ties with all these people. But this particular book will have in it the number of instances for the next 65 years. So this stuff has already been planned. Now, in 65 years, I'm lousy at math, so I don't know what year that will be, but suffice it to say, we'll probably all be dead and gone if Jesus doesn't come back to get us first. But anyway, it just concerns me because why are we having the WHO and other people, the UN especially, sit here and dictate how to finance the vaccines in America for the 21st century? It makes no sense to me, but it does point out that with the public-private partnerships, you have the fascism going, and technocracy comes right in with that. It absolutely does. Okay. Now, the next article that I have for you, this is from Forbes. Generation Beta gets underway as the beta babies arrive 2025 to 2039, growing up amid AI, AGI, and artificial super intelligence. Okay. Goes on to tell you, the author says, I'm sure you're generally familiar with the various eras to which society has assigned catchy names. Well, the author goes ahead and tells you what I just did about the different names for the different generations. But it goes on to say, you might be unfamiliar with Generation Beta. That makes sense since the latest generation just got underway a few days ago. So you can tell this article was written in early January, at the beginning of January 2025. Other than being cute, cuddly babies, Generation Beta has not yet had an opportunity to make its mark on the world. Well, what will they be like? How will the world treat them? Are they going to relish what they see, or are they going to be amazed? AI will be a huge part of their lifespan. It's relatively safe to bet and assert that AI is going to be a tremendous part of this generation's life. Right now, we're seeing how modern day AI, such as generative AI, has dramatically changed our views on what artificial intelligence is or might become. The years prior, it was mainly fanciful stories of science fiction, and you could just probably put your finger anywhere into actual reality. Goes on to tell you that it's going to be very, very concerning what happens to these children because they're going to be living out digital narratives, or they're going to be known as digital natives. I'm sorry, with digital narratives. Okay, so it's digital natives with digital narratives. That's a tongue twister.
Yes.
Growing up with the internet, smartphone, and all variety of high tech will make them entirely comfortable with electronic devices and computers. So, that little frog pot that we're all in, they're turning the heat up so that the children won't notice when they're boiling in all this mess. Goes on to tell you that they will be AI naturals. They will expect AI to be there and do everything for them. It will be a natural activity.
Wow.
Does that not sound scary?
Yes, that does sound scary. I think it's scary enough that people, grown adults, depend on the internet for everything.
Right.
So this is going to be really accelerating.
Absolutely, it is. Now, we have a wonderful relationship with Canada, right? Well, there is a group, an AI driven group out of Canada called the Thought Exchange. Now, here's the thing, Courtney, they have K through 12 education per state and per region in Canada. And they're telling you, oh, this is AI that you can trust because, after all, we've been in business since 2009 and we know what we're doing with artificial intelligence. Again, it goes on to tell you that they are minimizing bias and discrimination by using artificial intelligence. We're also safeguarding users' privacy and preventing unintended consequences of sharing sensitive data. Well, any company that has AI is going to have copious amounts of sensitive data. So, how do we really know they're going to protect it? It's going to make sure that the AI systems treat everyone equally, regardless of race, gender, and ability. We're going to be rigorous in our accountability. Oh, yes, rigor in education, just what we want. Don't think so. It goes on to tell you that, let's see, this is from the VP and Chief Trust Officer. At Thought Exchange, we truly value trust and understand the significance of privacy and data security. So when people engage with our platform, they're trusting not just our product, but our integrity too. So as we keep pushing the boundaries of artificial intelligence, we are redefining security and privacy to somehow make it responsible.
Right. I know.
And if you,
Sorry. I keep hearing these terms in reference to AI, and I still don't understand how that works. How are they going to be private, secure, responsible? None of this makes any sense. Sounds
well,
oxymoronic.
especially knowing that they're in Canada. Canada's another country from America, so that means it has to be internationally data aligned,
Right.
which
Has to be
is
interoperable.
it's a huge problem. If you look at their about page, you will see this is where you can find all kinds of things out about your state. They also offer you a free book. It's called the Playbook for Responsible Use of AI in Education Using Thought Exchange. So we're priming the pump, so to speak, so that we can get you nice and comfortable with this is going to take over education. Okay, we absolutely are. And of course, we know that Power School was invented by Pearson Publishing. And if you'll remember, Pearson Publishing was one of the chief groups that was able to get the Common Core copyrighted and off the ground.
Right.
And who holds the copyright for that? The National Governors Association and the Chief Council of State School Officers. To this day, they still own that particular copyright. But one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about Power School was because if you look at Power School, they have this cute little video called Power Buddy, and how your child can look forward to having an AI companion, and how the parents can use Power Buddy to track their children as well. But the reason why I wanted to talk about this first, as not the Power Buddy, but the Power School, is because I want you to listen to the timeline and notice how many data companies this particular school tool has been bounced around to. In 1997, Power School was funded by Pearson Publishing. In 2001, Apple acquired it. In 2006, Pearson gets it back. In 2015, you have 4 different data companies, one being in Canada and one being in India. 2016, then you have 2 more who acquire it, and they are who knows where. 2017, 2 more. All right, another one from India pops up. 2018, 1 more. People, Administration, and Performance Matters. 2019, Schoolology. 2020, Who in It? 2021, Naviance, the New York Stock Exchange, and Kickboard. 2022, Can Involve Chalk and Headed to. 2023, the United Arab Empire. Never Skip, School Messenger. 2024, All of You, Power Buddy, and Bain Capital.
Wow.
How many data companies is that? How many contracts are roped into that? Who's looking at your sensitive data? Because every bit of this is roped into school. And it's not just K through 12. This is in your higher education institutes. This is if your public school uses it, if your private school uses it, if your faith-based school uses it. It's everywhere.
So is it being required to use?
Certain school districts, absolutely. And then we have people out there who are coaching your school districts to go after not only the grants that would help fund some of the information and technology, but will fund some of the programs that come out the other end, like the mental health overreaches or the safe schools, so to speak. So we're getting hit from all sides about this. And then if you look at Hollywood, think about the commercials that we've seen in the past couple of years where you have celebrities who are telling you, oh, AI is not so scary. Here's what you could do with it. Now, there's been one instance that I will have to say I do see the value, and that is one of the AI tools that I think Amazon has created. And a blind person is able to use it to be able to help them get around the house and be able to live a more normal life. That to me sounds like a good thing, but at the cost of what?
Right. No, there's some really great things. I don't think AI itself is
Yeah.
inherently problematic. I don't think the technology is evil, but I think that how they're using it and the
Yes.
feedback loops that they're creating for
Yes.
biometric surveillance and tracking and control are the problem.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, now I did attach a document from the United States Department of Education. It's called Artificial Intelligence and the Future of Teaching and Learning. And if you will jump to page 11, I want you to see the graphic that is used about how AI will take over every part of education. And I don't argue, there are some good uses for it, but I think the way in which this is being proposed and brought to fruition is very, very troubling.
Yeah. Well, and especially at a young age. I mean, I think there's definitely problems for older age, but for children,
Right.
I think just even the copious screen time is really problematic
Yeah.
for very young children.
Absolutely. Well, on page 11, you'll have a really colorful graphic image about how it will overreach into education. On page 9 of this particular report, you're going to see where the Every Student Succeeds Act is woven in.
Yeah.
And we're still under that. Okay. We're still under that. We absolutely are. Other pages of importance for that particular
I did a
document.
whole thread about how I do think if they get rid of the Department of Education, it will weaken the the ESSA, but it's still there, and so the states obviously will have purview over that. But
This particular report, the image that you're seeing, this is from the AI in Education report that's just been released from the United States Department of Education. And it's all about AI and the future of teaching and learning. And this particular image will show you how AI is over everything in education. It goes from critical thinking to supposedly math. And then, you have to question, well, what is critical thinking? Then it's like everyday learning, informal learning, formal learning, accelerated thought. And again, is this steering our children on how to think or what to think? Other page numbers that you need to be concerned about in this particular PDF is page 1. Now I'm giving you the PDF numbers that work for my PDF reader. All right, you want page 1, page 2, page 5, page 9 is where it will talk about the Every Student Succeeds Act, because we're still under its jurisdiction. So you want to make sure that you read this particular document if you're concerned about how artificial intelligence can almost manipulate education to become something that we are really going to have to watch what happens with, because as we know, AI can take over and think for us. So at what point is my child thinking and learning to think, and at what point is AI taking that over? We should be concerned that AI is going to try to mimic a person's voice, because if it listens to you long enough, it can replicate your own voice. Now, your voice is something that is unique to you. It should not be up to a computer to try to replicate it. Because how are they going to replicate it? What use are they going to use your replicated voice for? It's just very, very concerning of what we need to watch. And one of the things that I wanted to point out, the reason why we need to be concerned about beta as a tag for our children is because if you look at different dictionaries, you're going to see different definitions. For example, in a student dictionary, it's going to say the second Greek letter in the alphabet. If you look at another one, it's going to tell you, well, it's the second in a group of in a series. Okay, that doesn't sound so bad. But if you go over to look at software's definition of what beta is, it's the second stage of development. Well, what happened during generation alpha? If beta is the second, what happened during alpha? How far did we get? How far are they planning on going? You see where I'm thinking. All right, if you look at business, it is a system or a product that is in the second stage of development and being tested on customers before it goes into full production. So we already have a government agency that's saying we're customers. Now we have business saying that we're customers. So just how much of this are they going to unleash on all of us while they're using our children as the test dummies?
Right. Yeah, that's very, very concerning. That
It absolutely is.
The biggest concern is that we already have the cybernetic feedback loops, data mining everyone, and they're already doing it with all of the tech ed. But now with AI, I think that's going to be exponentially increased.
Okay. All righty. Well, that is what I have for you, my dear. That is all the poop on the scoop.
Well, thank you. That was great. It was a little scary. What do you think we can do about it? Do you think that we can push back? Do you think that, like, it's great for people to be aware, but well, what can we do?
Right. Well, be aware that there is a Bill of Rights that is in the works for artificial intelligence. I did a show on Sons of Liberty about that. I think it was last year or the year before. I don't know. But the point of it is there is an AI Bill of Rights in the works. Okay. What is it doing? We need to know about it. We also need to know, and I've just found a book at the library about data privacy in this age of big technology and how we're going to navigate it. And one of the chapters was how to use the 18th century U.S. Constitution to protect you in our present and future ages against the data mining and the data privacy. Great. And once I read that chapter, I can get back to you. We can do a follow-up if you want, because it's to me, it sounds like a very exciting book because it gives us a hope of how we can fight back. You also can use the Civil Rights Act of 1981, Section 1983. This goes into your rights being violated, and AI and the use that we're seeing portrayed during this interview very much could violate your rights to privacy.
Of course.
You have a leg up to stand on to say, no, not on my watch. You're not going to take my child's data. You're not going to take my data.
Right.
And it's absolutely a wonderful way for citizens to be able to say, I'm going to fight back, but I'm going to use the law to fight what is going on. I'm not going to go out there and just do a mad dash protest that might get me in trouble or, that sort of thing. Right. No, use prudence, use the law, and then we can follow up with how the Constitution can help us.
Yeah, well, I think that's great. I'm all about restoring the Constitution. I think that's exactly what we need. So
absolutely.
And that does give us hope. And I'm sure there's things people can do locally. I think locally we have a lot more potential power.
Oh, absolutely.
So
and we can go over that too on our next episode if you'd like. We can go over some citizen action steps because there are quite a few, and there have been a lot of people who have put the time and effort into creating books of how citizens can fight back.
Yes, and unfortunately, this is being rammed through, but I actually think fighting against school choice is one of the things we can do.
Absolutely.
I think that's one of the ways that they're going to force this they're going to force it not just on the public school students, but on private, parochial, and even the homeschoolers, because they're going to lump everybody in under that umbrella. So
they sure are.
Yeah, I think that's the goal. So I do think that that's one of the ways that we can really be vigilant and keep fighting against it. We're not doing so well. That battle is
no.
Yeah, that's we're not winning that one, unfortunately, at the moment. But maybe we just lost the battle and we can win the war. So proverbially speaking.
I would like to think so, because Charlotte Iserby, before she passed, she was working on tying school choice to tax dollars and representation. And I carried that work on for her after she passed. And it is absolutely chilling to understand that people are sitting here going, yes, we want school choice. Yes, we want school choice. Crazy. But then when you understand that, okay, you get it, you shut down everything outside of public education, you rebrand it as public, therefore you continue to misuse tax dollars, your tax dollars are misrepresented, your voice as a vote is no longer needed. There's nothing to vote on because, after all, the government's running it all. Do you really want to support school choice and lose your right to vote? That's a huge constitutional issue, and no one's talking about it.
No. Huge. That's huge. Yeah, and it does need to be brought to more people's attention. I'm just astonished how hard it is to get people to wrap their heads around the fact that school choice is government choice. There's no choice when the government's involved. They always have strings attached, and you already have a choice. So it's been way more difficult to shine light on this than I would have thought.
Well, and please believe me when I say I totally understand, because I have put together info kits to help educate people on how toxic school choice is. I've done countless interviews and articles and all kinds of things.
Sure.
But when you talk about the government strings, page 17 of the Every Student Succeeds Act, in the final law version, it was on page 33 of the final conference report. The only difference between the two documents is one has larger font than the other, but they did that so that the people would think, oh, wait a minute, they cut all kinds of stuff out. No, they didn't. But page 17 clearly says that all education must be aligned to the same post-secondary readiness standards as laid out by the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. That one sentence, Courtenay, wiped out all school choice.
Right.
Because it said all education had to be what? Aligned to the same thing. And it wasn't even an education law. As unconstitutional as that is, it wasn't even, it was a workforce law.
Right. Right.
So there's your string right there.
Yeah, absolutely. So one more question: with all this AI stuff in the schools, what do you think their goal is with all of these injections, why are they ramping those up? And with all this technology and the AI tethered to the child, what do you think that they're?
Think mindless, useful widgets.
Mhm.
That's exactly what I think. And that's horrible because we're talking about living, breathing humans. We're not talking about robots. We're talking about children, and they're going to be trained to become mindless, useless, mindless, useful idiots.
Right.
They're going to be able to follow what they're told.
Right.
Because that's the other definition to beta, is you want someone else in charge. So we're couching our children to follow the leader, not to be the independent person that they were created to be. No, be part of the collective. I
Right.
think that's exactly what the goal is, and it's pretty far along.
Yeah, it does seem that way. Well, thank you so much for the work you're doing. If you have anything else you want to leave us with, please do, and tell everybody where they can find you and all that stuff.
Listen, share, inform. If you want to invite me to speak, you can email me at info@commoncorediva.com. That's info@commoncorediva.com. I can do in-person or online speaking. I have information kits that are on my website. You just go to the donate page, scroll down, you'll see the info kits. If you wish to financially bless any of the work that I do, I would always be appreciative of any sort of financial support, because what I do takes many hours and much energy, and I don't get paid to do it.
I understand. I understand. Well, I appreciate it, and I appreciate you, and I look forward to the next one. Thank you all so much, and
Thank you.
thank you all for watching. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you found it informative and edifying. I think it's a little bit scary, but I think it's really important that we be aware of what these agendas are. And I don't think hope is lost. I really do think we have a lot of power locally. I'm a little bit disappointed with what's going on with school choice, because I think that's how they're pushing a lot of this through. I know she pointed out the ESSA, and that is true. Even dismantling Department of Education, it will weaken the power of ESSA, but it will not erode it. And I've been talking about this for quite some time, so I'm sure this isn't news to you. If you've been watching me for a while, you know all of my concerns here. When she went through that, uh, schedule, if you will, for infants, not even for children, this is infants. That is horrifying. And I know people think that, it's kind of quacky when you start talking about why they're what are they putting in the injection? But there's something really strange about the need to put that many shots into an infant. And for what? Like, I mean, one of them was HIV. We know the whole history of HIV. I've gone through it on this show. We won't, Fauci was involved. It was a big scam. I won't go through the whole history now because it takes a while to unpack. But there is no reason. I don't know in any world where you can justify a 2-month-old needing an HIV shot. Unless like they inherited from their mother, and at that point, the shot is going to do nothing. So this is, there's some other agenda afoot, and I really do think it's tied to this transhuman agenda. I think that's exactly what's going on. When they say that 1 out of every 2 children are going to be autistic, I think that's best case scenario. I think we're going to see something far worse, because this is poison. It's poison. So I think that's actually the more optimistic outlook, is that it's poison and that it's not some sort of transhuman agenda, which it likely is. It could be both. I mean, I think it is both. But it's definitely poison. We know that all the adjuvants they use, all the metals, this is a lot of what causes the autistic type symptoms, is the high metal toxicity. I know people firsthand whose children have had grand mal seizures and super high fevers right after taking these drugs, and it's because there's so much toxicity. Even just the uptick of allergies that we see, like peanut allergy was not so prevalent prior to the major ramping of these vaccine schedule. And I think it's because it's ingredient number 57 in most vaccines. So the way that that works is that, our bodies are designed to ingest these things like egg, which is also, it's no longer now they're doing these different technology, but that was the primary ingredient in a lot of these injections. And um, of course, peanut number 57. And so your body's designed to ingest these things and process it. But when you have it intravenously, injected into you, your body sees it as a trauma. It's a foreign agent that's entering your bloodstream because we're not designed to have these things under our bloodstream directly. And I think that then what happens to a lot of children is the first time they ingest it, the body's pretty smart and it remembers that trauma. Oh no, wait, we remember this was a foreign agent and we have to defend ourselves. And it's that's the allergic response that occurs. So there's just all sorts of things that are just so wrong with this. But I think that parents really need to be pushing back now before the agenda gets further along. And right now, parents need to fight against this school choice because there needs to be parental rights. I know in my state, I've had Tiffany Boyd on many times, and she has something called the Free Act. And I'm in Tennessee, so if you're in Tennessee, definitely support the Free Act. This is where it will restore power for homeschoolers, and this so that they are not subjected to some of these crazy initiatives. Yes, that's me on her show. I was on her radio show. This was right after we went to the state capitol multiple times, and I was not so favorably received. This is a very big initiative for our governor, this school choice, and it was pushed through at least, first stages. When I was there, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, the House Senate had passed it through. And that was very, very disappointing and discouraging. And it was actually all of the Democrats who were really pushing back against school choice. And this is exactly what Charlotte Iserbyt warned us that would happen. She said it would be pushed through the right wing. So libertarians, conservatives, the whole umbrella of the right wing. And of course, it was Trump in the middle of this hearing does a tweet and, Truth Social, a big post about how he's so proud of Tennessee for, pushing for school choice. And then, of course, he did his executive order, talking about pushing national school vouchers. I don't know if that actually went through yet, but I know he was talking about doing it that night. And so this is something I think really needs to be pushed through because it is the vehicle. It needs to be pushed against. I'm sorry. It's the vehicle for them to be able to implement all of this tech ed, all of this AI being foisted upon the children, all of these, ridiculous well-being checks where they can determine what medication, and injections the child needs. That should be the parent's purview. And if the parent should choose to consult a doctor, then it's between the parent and the doctor. And if the child's old enough, the child, maybe can have a voice. But that's it. This should not be a school's decision. It should not be the government's decision under any circumstances should the government have any say in these matters. So I think that's a huge way that we have some potential to fight back against this really insidious agenda. And, that was what Charlotte Iserbyt back in the 80s blew the whistle on, was the BEST project, which was all about the tech ed. And it hadn't changed. It's just that the technology has advanced. And now they really do want to put, she had said that they want to create these kind of mindless but useful widgets, cogs in a machine. The plan has been very clearly delineated. They've laid out that they want to create global, they call them global citizens. And that was the whole point of the World Core Curriculum. She's the Common Core diva, right? There's a Common Core comes straight out of the World Core Curriculum. We've covered this quite a bit here on the show, right? This comes straight out of Alice Bailey, right? Her book on education in the new age. And She also has her externalization of the hierarchy, where she lays out her 10-step plan for the New World Order. And she's a huge inspiration to Robert Mueller. Robert Mueller was worked for the UN, Secretary General the UN for 40 years. And he wrote in his, I think it was 4,000 ideas, but it went on to be, I don't know how many thousand. But he talked about this. Outlined the World Core Curriculum, and the World Core Curriculum was going to be predicated on Alice Bailey's works, and of course, Joel Kuhl, who was her ascended master. And he says this, and the whole plan was to create global citizens. And that seems very much what the agenda is today. And I think with the AI, it's to create global citizens as part of this. It's going to be what they would want. I'm hoping it won't be, but what they want is this machine workforce, right? So it's how are we going to integrate the beta generation? And she was right to point out that beta is second stage development. Like the second operating system, if you will, but it's the subordinate, right? You think of like that, the joke is when they talk about beta men, right? They're not leaders. And this is not to say that we don't need beta men, because they serve a role too. But they're not the leaders, and they're not the alpha. And I think they are trying to create a generation of betas who will be subordinate, not just to the elites in a feudal system, a neo-feudal system, but a neo-feudal transhuman system where they're talking about merging with machine, and where they'll be subordinate to the machines and subordinate to the robots. And of course, this still means you're subordinate to humans. Who's programming them? I know they keep trying to convince us that machines are sentient, and I've read so much of literature where they actually talk about this. They say, that the AI is already sentient. I personally don't believe this, and I don't believe that it will ever be. I don't think that that's possible. I could be wrong. I'm not prescient, and I don't know. But in my heart of hearts, in my gut, I don't feel that the machine will achieve that. However, I believe that they can convince people, and if they convince enough people, that will create the chaos and the behavior that is desired. It will create, in many ways, very at least close to the desired outcome. So all that to say, I think that we need to really push back against this, and make sure that this agenda does not come to fruition. They do not win, because this really looks very dystopian to me. But I hope you appreciate the information that she brought forth, and I hope it inspires you to take some action, especially if you're a parent, to fight back locally. Make sure that you retain some parental rights. And if you want to see more of my work and have this show continue, then please consider supporting me in any way that you possibly can. And thank you all so much.